It's way past time that we talk about the nap, how to securely access the deep web, and what's in the news with the top 5 campaign slogans for Bunny Ranch owner Dennis Hoff.
Welcome to The Lava Flow, channeling the flow of information to the libertarian, anarcho-capitalist, voluntarist, and agorist community. Find us at thelavaflow.com. Here's your host, Roger Paxton.
Thank you for joining me this week, coming to you from Lava HQ. From the state where the State School for the Deaf has a leopard as a mascot. I kid you not. This is the show that will bring you the people, places, and events that everyone in the Liberty Revolution needs to know. You can catch me on Twitter at the Lava Flow Pod. This is episode 16, the It's Past My Nap Time edition, and it's Tuesday, July 21st. 2015, when we've already had more than 625 people killed by police this year. What's rustling my jimmies this week? You're about to find out. Let's do it to it. It seems to be in fashion for pseudo-libertarians to try and remove the non-aggression principle as the foundational principle of libertarianism, and I am sick and tired of seeing it. For example, Austin Peterson has called the nap childish on 3 separate recent top libertarian podcasts. He is even on record saying that if someone steals from him, he will, quote, find you and beat you. Clearly, he has a reason for being against the nap, because he believes in initiating force. Matt Zwolinski, on the other hand, the founder of Bleeding Heart Libertarians, wrote an article a couple of years ago trying to get libertarians to reject the non-aggression principle completely. The 6 reasons that he lists have been refuted several times over the past couple of years, but the article is still prominent, and I've talked to several libertarians who treat it as gospel. Both Zwolinski's article and a refutation by one of my favorite libertarian authors, George H. Smith, can be found in the show notes to this episode at thelavaflow.com/16. I've also added a link to a video with Walter Block on liberty.me called Defending the Non-Aggression Principle. It's well worth the watch. So instead of me taking the time trying to refute these silly arguments that have already been refuted, I'm going to take the time today to talk about what the nap is and why it's so important. So what exactly is the non-aggression principle? It's quite simply an ethical stance that asserts that the initiation of aggression is inherently illegitimate. The definition of aggression for these purposes is physical force against persons or property, the threat of such force, or fraud against persons or property. In other words, don't hit someone. Don't steal their stuff. Don't threaten to hit someone or steal their stuff. And don't commit fraud against someone to harm them or to take their stuff. It's a pretty simple concept that we were all taught as children. But over time, we've been indoctrinated to disregard it in school, at work, and in society. There are a couple of points that need to be made about the nap. First, libertarians see no distinction between people and government when it comes to the initiation of force. If it's illegitimate for a person to do it, it's also illegitimate for a person to delegate to another person or group of people the ability to do it. For example, and I use this analogy a lot, I can't go to my neighbor's house, point a gun at him, and take his money. I couldn't do it even if I were going to use the money for a nice public park or even to save someone's life. I also can't get a couple of my friends together and go to my neighbor's house and take his money, no matter the reason. It's still illegitimate for me to get the entire neighborhood or the city together to go to his house and take his money. Since I don't have the right to do this, then I don't have the right or the ability to delegate that right to someone else, like a government, to do it for me. Since government enforces everything with the threat of the point of a gun, government is force by its very definition. Penn Jillette recently said it well in his podcast, Penn Sunday School. Would you use a gun to stop a murder? Well, yes. Would you use a gun to stop a rape? Of course you would. Would you use a gun to protect someone's property? Sure. Would you use a gun to build a library? Of course not. Would you use a gun to send a rocket into space? Nope. Secondly, aggression is not the issue here. It is the initiation of aggression. Don't confuse non-initiation of aggression with pacifism. For example, if someone were to come into my home with a gun to harm me or my family or to steal my stuff, I am completely within my right to use aggression to stop the threat from the person who has come into my home. And trust me, I would. Defensive aggression or force is completely legitimate and even required in some cases to protect your person or property. Now, there are limits to this, of course. If someone steps onto your property accidentally without showing any aggression, for example, you can't just shoot them. Of course, they are technically breaking the nap by stepping on your property without your permission. But if you shoot the offender, you have used a disproportionately large retaliation, which in itself becomes a new act of aggression. If you're interested in following this topic more, you can do a search for the theory of proportionality on the internet. It's a pretty deep topic and way too deep to get in here, but I may do a future episode on it because it's a pretty important topic. Now, what is the origin of the non-aggression principle? Where did it come from? There are generally two people who are given credit for formally enunciating the principle. Ayn Rand, in an essay called Man's Rights, in her book The Virtue of Selfishness, wrote, "The precondition of a civilized society is the barring of physical force from social relationships. In a civilized society, force may be used only in retaliation and only against those who initiate its use." A couple of years later, in 1963, Murray Rothbard linked the principle to libertarianism by saying in War, Peace, and the State, quote, "No one may threaten or commit violence, aggress, against another man's person or property. Violence may be employed only against the man who commits such violence. That is, only defensively against the aggressive violence of another. In short, no violence may be employed against a non-aggressor. Here is the fundamental rule from which can be deduced the entire corpus of libertarian theory." This is actually one of the main reasons for Ayn Rand's animosity towards libertarianism. She believed that she had been slighted in some way, that her principle was stolen from her by Rothbard and other libertarians. Either way, it's clearly a powerful principle. But why is it so important? It's important because if the initiation of aggression is not inherently wrong, then that, by default, means that it is either never wrong or sometimes wrong to initiate aggression. It's clear that no person who could be considered civilized would make the claim that the initiation of aggression is never wrong. So that leaves us with it being sometimes wrong. But to imply that the initiation of aggression is only sometimes wrong implies that it's sometimes right to initiate aggression. Most people who feel this way use it as a justification for allowing the government to tax or conscript men to war or any of the other aggressions that a state imposes on its people. So, since it's clear that the initiation of aggression is either always wrong, sometimes wrong, or never wrong, which one of these three do you think would be more conducive to a civilized, peaceful, and just society? The answer is clear to anybody who uses logic and reasoning to deduce the answer. The initiation of aggression is always wrong. But is it? Are there emergency situations where aggression might be morally justified? Sure. If you're starving, it may be morally justified to steal food, for example. But it is still unjust, as you have aggressed against someone else's property. Naturally, the owner of the food that you stole has the choice of whether or not to prosecute you for your aggression. But if he does, you will be responsible for making the party that you stole from whole, or as whole as possible. The non-aggression principle simply boils down to property rights. I can't hit you because you have a property right to your body. If I steal your car, I have taken your property. If I step on your land, I have negated your ability to do what you want to with that piece of your property while I stand on it. You have the exclusive right to control any scarce resource that you own, and no one else has the right to impede that right. This is why the non-aggression principle is so important. And this is one reason libertarians are so consistent in their philosophy. Have you subscribed to the Lava Flow on iTunes or any mobile device yet? Then what's wrong with you? Go to thelavaflow.com/subscribe so you don't miss a minute of the show. And while you're subscribing, make sure to leave me a 5-star rating and review the show to help others find our podcast. thelavaflow.com/subscribe.
What's in the news? The news you need to know from a libertarian perspective.
In No Shit Sherlock news, the Federal Reserve Bank of New York released a report showing that the massive investments in grants and student loans by the federal government is a major contributor to the unbridled growth in the cost of attending college. The report shows that, on average, each additional dollar in government financial aid translated to a tuition hike of around 65 cents. So federal student aid is actually federal college aid, since the majority of the benefit goes directly to the college and not to the student. According to the Daily Caller, quote, "In the long run, federal aid could actually be making college less accessible on average, because higher tuition will also affect individuals who aren't able to access federal aid. As a result, while financial aid is costing the government hundreds of billions of dollars while also causing a huge surge in debt among young Americans, it may be having a very marginal effect on access to education." Now, this is certainly not news to Austrian economists, nor should it be news to anyone who has a basic understanding of economics. Just look at public K-12 versus private K-12 costs and benefits. Yet Bernie Sanders wants to make college free for everyone. In mixing the two oldest professions news, Bunny Ranch brothel owner Dennis Hoff has joined the Libertarian Party and is considering running for the Senate seat to replace retiring Harry Reid. Quote, "If I really want to change things in this state and this country, I have to have some skin in the game," Hoff said in a press release. Skin in the game. God damn it, does it get any better than that? Here is my take on the top 5 campaign slogans for Dennis Hoff for Senate. Number 5, it only feels dirty the first time. Number 4, 2 oldest professions, 1 candidate. Number 3, I don't care where that finger's been, use it to push the button for Hoff. Number 2, I'm running to bring morality back to the Senate. Number 1, to get screwed out of your money without the happy ending, try the U.S. Senate. In Cops Are Now Using My ANCAP Apps news, Miami police officers are now using the traffic app Waze to falsely report their locations on the road. If you recall way back in episode 5 of The Lava Flow at thelavaflow.com/5, I discussed Waze in the ANCAP app segment, telling you that it was a great way to be notified of speed traps or roadblocks set up with cops, along with traffic jams, accidents, and many other obstacles that could affect your daily commute. Now, the cops in Miami are using it to throw you off the trail, so to speak. NBC6 Miami reports, quote, "Hundreds of officers downloaded the app to try and steer the data in the wrong direction by reporting false information on their activity." A Waze spokesperson said, quote, "Fake coordinated traffic reports can't come to fruition because they'll be negated by the next 50 people that drive down the street passively using Waze. Police partners support Waze and its features, including reports of police presence, because most users tend to drive more carefully when they believe law enforcement is nearby. I know I do." In too little, too late news, President Obama has commuted the sentences of 46 federal nonviolent drug offenders, 14 of whom have been sentenced to life in prison. More than 30,000 federal inmates came forwards in response to the administration's call for clemency applications. Obama said, quote, "These men and women were not violent criminals, but the overwhelming majority had been sentenced to life for nonviolent drug offenses, so their punishments didn't fit the crime. I believe that America, at its heart, is a nation of second chances, and I believe these folks deserve their second chance," end quote. No word from Obama on why the other 30,000 nonviolent drug offenders that requested clemency and the other tens of thousands who did not deserve their sentences and not deserve a second chance. Also, no word on why it took him 7 years of his presidency before commuting these sentences while these 46 people rotted in prison. Last July, the United States Sentencing Commission began to reduce sentences for most drug crimes, which will apply to nearly 50,000 federal inmates who are serving time under the old rules. So far, retroactive sentencing reductions have happened for more than 9,500 inmates, nearly 3/4 of them black or Hispanic. In Oops, I Did It Again news, one day after John Stossel came out on Fox News as endorsing Rand Paul and saying that he would vote for him, Rand Paul shows his true neocon roots by coming out in opposition of the Iran nuclear agreement. He listed 3 reasons why he's against the deal. And as Justin Raimondo at antiwar.com said, one of them is completely false, another reason is only partly correct, and the third is frankly absurd. The best part of all of this is that Ron Paul came out in support of the Iran nuclear deal, of course, saying that it is an important step towards peace. He also said that the radical neocons would, quote, probably not be too happy with this agreement, end quote. Did Ron Paul just call his son a radical neocon? You be the judge. And in a bit of personal news, my good friend Tom Knapp, who is responsible for the Napster podcast and blog, and also writes for the Center for a Stateless Society and the William Lloyd Garrison Center for Libertarian Advocacy Journalism, had some incredibly nice things to say about this show on his podcast this week. He was asked by one of his listeners what podcast he listens to on a regular basis. Go ahead and take a listen to his answer.
As far as podcasts that I listen to, it's hard for me to listen to a lot of podcasts because if I set one running and then try to do other stuff, my attention wanders. And at the same time, I don't have time to just sit down, turn on a podcast, and listen straight through very much. So there are only 3 that I listen to regularly. The first one is our sponsor, Daryl Perry's FPP Freedom Minute. That's a once-a-week podcast on a policy issue. Roger Paxton, every 2 weeks, every fortnight, does the Lava Flow podcast. Excellent show. Roger has a pleasing, mellifluous voice, unlike me. His podcast is written and professionally presented, professionally read, is quite well done, and I recommend it. Then, not technically a podcast, it's a radio show, but I listen to it in podcast format on SoundCloud, is Free Talk Live.
Now, if you're like me, you have no clue what mellifluous means. I had to go look it up. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary online defines it as, quote, having a smooth, rich flow, and, quote, filled with something as honey that sweetens. Now, anyone who does voice work on a regular basis generally hates the sound of their own voice, and I'm no exception. But this is now the 3rd Liberty podcaster who has told me very similar things, and I'm just dumbfounded. Thanks so much, Tom, for that plug on your show. I am honored to be in your top 3, especially in the middle of such great podcasters like Daryl Perry and Ian Freeman and Mark Edge. Now, I followed Tom's work for many years, and I have loved what he puts out. This guy cranks out very, very high-quality content at a very, very high rate. Check out his main blog at napster.blogspot.com. That's KNAPPSTER.blogspot.com. And also be sure to check out the William Lloyd Garrison Center for Libertarian Advocacy Journalism. geez, that's a mouthful, at thegarrisoncenter.org. The content that he produces at the Garrison Center gets picked up by mainstream newspapers all over the country dozens of times a month. This is real libertarian content being published very regularly for the average person to read. It's a great project and one that we need to support. Exercise your free market muscles by going to thelavaflow.com/support and giving a per episode donation of as little as $1 an episode, or use Bitcoin. Get exclusive content, rewards, and help the Lava Flow become fiscally neutral while providing you more content. thelavaflow.com/support.
Talk the talk. Do you walk the walk?
I mentioned a couple of episodes ago that I was going to do a segment on how to shop in the deep web as securely and anonymously as possible, and this is the first part of that. This will end up being a 2-episode piece, so make sure to tune in next episode to get the second half of this walkthrough. As I write this walkthrough, I will be going through the stats myself and ordering something from the deep web. I will keep you up to date on the progress of the item I order and the success or failure of the process. Wish me luck. I would love to hear your feedback on this, and if you end up using these steps to order something on the deep web, let me know what you ordered. I'm curious. The deep web is truly agorism in action, and it is just one more cog in the wheel to bringing down the state. I recommend that you use it for as much as you can. If you're not into illegal products, there are plenty of legal products in the deep web to order. Since I am the main breadwinner for my family and a father of 2, I won't be ordering anything illegal from the deep web, but I do plan to do more shopping on the deep web in the future. And a big thank you to Andrew, who helped me quite a bit through this process. He's a deep web guru, and his help and advice were incredible. The very first thing you need to do is buy some Bitcoin in your primary wallet. The reason I'm telling you to do this first is because if you have never purchased Bitcoin before, it could take a few days for the purchase to be verified and for Bitcoin to be added to your account. I use Coinbase for my primary wallet, and I do have an affiliate link with Coinbase. So if you go to thelavaflow.com/Coinbase and purchase $100 of Bitcoin, I get a taste of that to help support the show. The link for this will also be in the show notes for this episode at thelavaflow.com/16. And if you donate Bitcoin to me, this is also the wallet that Bitcoin goes to when you go to thelavaflow.com/support. Now, if you have your eyes on a specific product on the deep web, I recommend buying 5 to 10% more Bitcoin than that product is listed as. This will ensure that any fluctuations and change of the price of Bitcoin will still allow you to purchase the product on the deep web, and any transaction fees like when we launder our Bitcoin in a little bit. This is the only Bitcoin wallet that you want to use to purchase Bitcoin with, since you will have to use your credit card or bank account information to purchase the Bitcoin, linking it then to your personal information. We'll talk about moving this Bitcoin to a much more anonymous Bitcoin wallet in a later step. The next thing that I would recommend would be to get a VPN software. VPN stands for Virtual Private Networking, and it's used to connect your computer to other computers prior to sending your traffic to the internet. This then masks the IP address that your computer has at home and makes it look like you're another computer somewhere else entirely, so your internet traffic can't be traced back to you. If you use a VPN, I recommend connecting to a server that is outside of the US for even more security. I have used both ProXPN at proxpn.com and CyberGhost at cyberghostvpn.com in the past. Both of these have premium software packages, but they offer a free version with severely restricted speeds. Since the deep web is generally slow to begin with, you should be fine with either of the free versions just to browse and buy from the deep web. Both of these will allow you to connect to servers outside of the US, but that is also part of the premium service. You can also use these VPN services to download torrents anonymously and many other things as well, so I highly recommend it. You may be fine without using a VPN service, but it's an additional layer of security for the paranoid like me. If you're going to use a VPN service, I would recommend having it connected for every step after this one for the highest security possible. To access the deep web, you need a specific browser that will allow you to access the deep web in a secure manner. Tor is a browser designed specifically to help mask the computer that you're browsing from, and it's also designed to access the deep web. Keep in mind, it does not guarantee that you'll remain anonymous, but it does help a lot. This is the browser that Edward Snowden used to cover his tracks as he communicated with the reporters who broke his story. If it's good enough for Snowden, it's good enough for me. As the Tor website says, quote, "The Tor network is a group of volunteer-operated servers that allow people to improve their privacy and security on the internet. Tor's users employ this network by connecting through a series of virtual tunnels rather than making a direct connection, thus allowing both organizations and individuals to share information over private networks without compromising their security." You can download the Tor browser at torproject.org/download, and Tor is spelled T-O-R. Install it on your computer, and make sure to allow it to add an icon to your desktop. You can use the Tor browser to access both of your regular internet sites and your deep web sites, but it will be significantly slower than your normal browser due to it connecting through so many different computers to anonymize your traffic, so be prepared for that. Once you have your VPN connected and your Tor browser installed and running, you want to create a second Bitcoin wallet to protect your transactions from prying eyes. If you use your primary wallet that is connected to your bank account, your credit card, you're not going to be anonymous at all. It'll be easy to trace back to you. I recommend using either the blockchain.info wallet at blockchain.info/wallet for a browser-based wallet, or you can use Blockchain for iPhone or Bitcoin Wallet for Android. Any of these are good options. Links for all of these will be in the show notes for this episode at thelavaflow.com/16. Now, how do you get the money from your primary wallet to your super secret wallet without the Bitcoin transaction being traceable? Well, you've heard of laundering money in the movies and such, and you can do the exact same thing with your Bitcoin, and it's very easy. This is also called a Bitcoin tumbler or a Bitcoin mixer, and it works super simply. You send your Bitcoin to the laundry service and tell it what address you want it to send the Bitcoin to. It will mix up your Bitcoin transactions inside its service with lots of other transactions from other users, and then send your Bitcoin to the wallet you designated over a period of time. The most secure of these will use an entirely different wallet to send you the Bitcoin, so it's logically impossible to trace. There are many of these services out there, but please be careful about which ones you choose. Never choose a free Bitcoin tumbler because you will probably never see your Bitcoin again. You can generally get this service for about 2% for a semi-anonymous clean of your Bitcoin, and for the most secure, it will be around 3%. Pay the extra 1% for peace of mind, especially if you plan to purchase something illegal on the deep web. I recommend using the secure launder option at bitcoinlaunder.com, or another option is the app at app.bitlaundry.com. Both of these have been around for a while and are known to be secure and legitimate, so you can't go wrong with either one of them. So now we're halfway there, and the hard part is pretty much done. Next episode, in this segment, we'll be connecting to the deep web, setting up a deep web email for secure communication, finding the best sites out there to purchase various items, and going through a purchase, including using encryption to send your shipping address to the seller. Be sure to tune in 2 weeks. Thank you for listening to the show this week. As always, I need to thank the luckiest woman alive, Jessica, for her help with this show, and Sheltered Life for allowing me to use their music. For the show notes to this episode, where I put links and other information that's been on the show, go to thelavaflow.com/16. I've had another dry spell of no new iTunes reviews, but I want to take the time to thank all of you who have taken your time to rate and review this show so far. 100% of my 24 ratings are 5-star, and I have 19 awesome reviews. For only 16 episodes, this is a huge win, and it helps others to find this show. I can't stress that enough. I appreciate every single one of my reviews, which is why I read every one of them here. If you want your review read on the show, go to thelavaflow.com/iTunes and rate and review the show. You can also help out by liking us on Facebook at thelavaflow.com/FB and following us on Twitter at thelavaflow.com/Twitter. You can then use Facebook and Twitter to share this show with your friends and families, which is a huge help. I don't do any advertising for this show at all. So 100% of the growth is because of word of mouth, because of you. And you guys have been amazing at spreading the message. Because of that, my last episode hit all sorts of records for this show. I couldn't have done it without you guys, and thank you so much. If you like what this show gives you and you want more of it, and to keep this show ad-free, exercise your free market muscles by going to thelavaflow.com/support and giving a per episode donation of as little as $1 an episode using Patreon or Bitcoin. There are monthly costs associated with doing this show, and I need additional equipment to continue making this show better for you every episode. I'm 31% of the way towards bringing you more content. Help me get there. Until next time, keep striking the root.
Thank you for listening to The Lava Flow at thelavaflow.com. Don't miss an episode. Subscribe now at thelavaflow.com/subscribe. This has been a Pax Libertas Productions podcast.